forward in some numbers this time. In by Tepe.
But Danny Ceballos has it now for Arsenal!
Right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's webinar, which is the fourth in a series of 5 webinars we've been doing around this season's FA Cup. Last week, we looked at a couple of player profiles and player journeys, Mason Mount and then Bukayo Saka. And those recordings, if you want to catch up with them, are on the FA Learning YouTube channel. Last night, Jimmy Gilligan, Paul Holder and Matt Ransbotham had a little bit of a look at Chelsea, and we're going to do the same by shining a light on Arsenal this evening. So we'll kick straight in. No, we won't. We will. I will introduce who I've got with me. So my name's Laura. I'm the FA's Performance Analysis Education Lead, and delighted this evening to be joined by 2 experts in Arsenal legend Paul Davis, who is clearly not going to be biased at all through tonight's webinar, and coach developer Stuart Delaney. Welcome, guys. Thank you, Laura. Nice to be here. Looking forward to this. Yep. I put my red t-shirt on, especially for you, Davo. Yeah, I know. It's a good big night, or a big weekend for us, I was just saying. So let's kick off, shall we, and have a little look at Arsenal's route to the final. I can remember being sat at St George's Park back in January watching Arsenal play Leeds, and Leeds very much dominating the first 45 minutes. So, Stu, what do you make of Arsenal's route to the final and some of the challenges they may have faced along the way?
Yeah, like you say, I think we watched that game together, Laura, didn't we, through an air licence course, and I thought Leeds were outstanding on the night. I think it was Nelson who scored in the 55th minute, if I remember right, and the 1-0 win. But when you look at the kind of route to the final they've had, it's been tough. It's been a challenge. I think the information, if I'm right in thinking, I don't think they've been behind in a game. So I think they've always had the upper hand. And when you think about Bournemouth away, Portsmouth away, Sheffield United away, and then Man City to play, I think it's been every credit to them getting to where they are, and hopefully they can. Certainly from Davo's point of view, take it one step forward further and try and win the cup on Saturday. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Stu. I mean, like you say, the games that they've had, they've been tough games, haven't they? They've been away. I was actually at the Arsenal-Leeds game in the stadium, and Leeds in the first half were outstanding. I thought, they should have really been sort of 2 or 3 up before half-time. Then Arsenal came out in the second half, and although they only won by 1 goal in the end, they had a few chances themselves. But and you say like the Bournemouth game, I think Arsenal were pretty comfortable in that. Yeah, I think it was going to be a late goal, wasn't it, for Bournemouth at the end? Yeah. And I think the good thing about this run for Arsenal in terms of the games, and we'll go into it a little bit later on, is that it's enabled Mikel to play a few of the younger kids, and they've played a big part in this run. Saka scoring goals, creating goals in the run up to the final, and we'll talk about those guys, those characters a little bit later on. But yeah, tough journey. You're going to look at Sheffield United, aren't you? I'm going to look at Man City in a bit. But the 2-0 win at Portsmouth was again another tough game for them. So they've done well to get to the final. It's not an easy road. And I think one thing that sort of stands out for me when we move on to look at the final is we've got 2 fairly young managers in terms of their managerial experiences at top clubs, and I guess the first opportunity for them to win silverware as managers. Just shining a light a little bit more on Arteta, obviously, who's taken over the Arsenal job just before Christmas. His first game in charge was on Boxing Day. So the game against Chelsea was actually his second game in charge of Arsenal in the league. And I guess just linking into the 2 games, I know that the guys touched a little bit on this last night when we spoke about Chelsea. Interesting in the first game that Chelsea started with the back 3, switched quite early on. To a back 4 in that game, and then matched that formation in the second game. And at this stage, under Arteta, Arsenal were playing the 4-2-3-1. I guess alongside having 2 young managers, we've also got the added bit in terms of Chelsea have qualified through Europe this season through their league position there in the Champions League, and Arsenal need to win on Saturday to
get that European spot. So I guess, Davo, if your huge experience in following Arsenal very closely, do you think that adds a little bit more pressure to the game for them, that European spot for next season?
Yeah, I do. I think you're right there. I think for Arsenal, they do need to, more so than Chelsea. As you say, Chelsea already through into Europe. Arsenal really need to win this to get into Europe. So yeah, there's more on it for Arsenal. Definitely. Coming back to the way Arteta started out, as we got there in the lineup, he did definitely come in wanting to play 4 at the back. And I think what happened was they were just continuing to leak goals, really. They didn't look really that comfortable with 4. And I think he's changed it mainly because of the personnel and some of the mistakes that they were making. And since he's changed it to 3, he's by and large they've looked a little bit more solid. So yeah, it's he's learning about his players all the time. The games I've watched, he's done a fantastic job in getting the best of what he's got at the moment.
You make a good point there, Davo, in terms of the change that Arteta's made with Arsenal, and I guess it's part of the story to get to the video clips of what we're going to unpick a little bit tonight. So when he took charge in the latter part of December, as you said, it started with the 4-2-3-1 system with varying degrees of success. So his win percentage starting that way this season is at 50%. I think it was the 3rd game after we came back from sort of the enforced break that we've had with the lovely lockdown scenario we've all been in when they played Southampton on the 25th of June. He's then switched to a back 3 and played the next 9 games with that back 3 formation. Interesting enough, until they played Watford in the last game of the season. I've got a conspiracy theory on that in terms of I know if I'm an analyst and I'm studying a team over a period of time and they're playing, in the last what would have been 10 games if they played that way last weekend, would have been a 3-4-3. I'd have been fairly confident going into the weekend predicting that Arsenal might play in that way. So my conspiracy theory is that Arteta's tried to throw one a little bit there. David, you've got an alternative, haven't you?
Yeah, I feel that Arteta was interviewed a couple of days ago around that same sort of question. Did you change your system against Watford? They actually asked him why did he change it. He came out just openly said that he felt that against Watford it was the best system to play. He wanted to play 4 at the back. I actually feel that he was being honest in that, and I think ideally he would want to play 3 at the back for the final. That's his preferred system with these type of players. I think he feels that when they're defending with the 3 and the two wing backs dropping in, and the two holding midfield players dropping in, he feels there's a bit more solidity there in the team. It hasn't really worked with 4 at the back by and large, and ideally I think he would want to play 3 at the back.
I mean, it's interesting in that Watford game he actually did switch in the 57th minute to the back 3. So I should just mention, obviously, we've got the chat box tonight, which is great that many of you have said hello in. If you have any questions around what we're talking about, please throw them in the chat box and we'll do our best to link into the conversations. In last night's webinar where we looked at Chelsea, we actually spent the majority of the webinar looking at the back 3 versus the back 4. We're going to actually flip the lens into more of the forward players now. And I guess we just got a little bit of data to underpin that. So I did mention that when Arteta has started in his series of games with the back 4 and the 4-2-3-1 system, he's had a win percentage of 50%, albeit a fewer number of games. But with the 3-4-3, that's increased to 63% from a win percentage of the games he's played. So an enhancement there, just generally looking at results. And then if we delve into that in a little bit more detail, and particularly shine a light more on the final third element of the game, there's 2 stats on the screen there. Attacking efficiency is a stat we use to look at how effective teams are at progressing the ball in the final third. So for every final third entry, what would be the percentage of the team being able to progress that into the penalty area? And the reason we look at that is the majority of goals are scored within that 18-yard box. So Statman Matt, who's in the chat, will correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I believe it's 86% of goals in this season's Premier League have been scored from within the penalty area. So playing the 4-2-3-1, Arsenal were able to convert 50 or almost 53% of their final third entries into the penalty area, and of the shots that they were able to create, were converting almost 21% of them into goals. Then if we flip on and look at a little bit like those two figures in playing with the back three, you can see that both jump. So attacking efficiency now is up close to 57%. Interestingly, they've actually created less scoring opportunities in terms of less strikes at goal in open play, but the chances they have created, they've converted into more goals, and that now up at over 31%. So I guess I'll throw it to you, Stu, in terms of back three, back four. Logic would suggest there's more players further up the pitch when you've got the back three, and therefore you're potentially going to be more effective in the final third. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's good players can take up good spaces, can't they? So I know that some of the chats are coming through around shapes and formations, but good players tend to find out where the spaces are to try and exploit an opponent. But if you can try and progress up the ball in a controlled way, and you can try and get more numbers ahead of the ball, then you're trying to put more kind of emphasis in that kind of third, aren't you? So yeah, the more numbers, and certainly with the front three, what Arsenal have got, will certainly hopefully give you more chances, and hopefully more chances to convert your shots. Depends how much risk and reward you want to try and focus on.
Dave, anything to add?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what Arsenal have done is worked with, like I said earlier, the personnel that he's got, and it actually works. I agree. It works with the personnel that he's got, this system, and he's able to get more players forward as well, as Stuart has said. Usually, with the three up top, the two wider ones looking to get beyond, if they can, the opposition backline in quick counter attacks, and generally with the three at the back, he's playing with David Luiz in the middle of the three, who's in possession. If he's on his game, he's pretty good. He can distribute pretty well. So he has had some lapses at the back, and that's been a big problem for Arteta. But yeah, the way they've set up in that 3-4-3 is more suited to the players that he's got, I think.
Yeah, I think what's important as well, though, is when you hear kind of Arteta speak, he wants to try and provide consistency of the attacks. So we probably all know that we don't just score off the first phase. It's the second, third, and fourth. So how can we put ourselves into a structure behind the ball? Certainly, structured in possession, but also structured out of possession for their moments of transition, where we can pick as many balls as we can to try and prolong the attack, because that's where most goals are scored from the transitional elements. So I know we'll come on to it shortly through some video clips, but I'd certainly encourage the viewers now and the watchers not to keep watching the ball, watch away from the ball, certainly ahead of it, to see how many players he's looking to try and commit ahead of the ball in spaces to try and occupy the opponent's back line, but also how they're thinking about behind the ball, about the what ifs, to either recycle the ball to try and keep possession, to try and probe down a different kind of space, or to try and make sure that the percentages of us winning second ball, to try and get the second, third, and fourth, fifth, sixth phase of attack, if need be, to try and give ourselves the best opportunity at kind of attacking efficiently, to try and up this conversion of shots.
I think also with sorry.
Oh, go on, Dave. You go first.
Yeah, it's just to add on a little bit in terms of the personnel. Some of the younger players that have come in have actually really taken to Arteta's been asking of them, in particular Saka. I know we had a webinar on him recently, but he's been really outstanding in the way that he's taken his chances, and he's played in so many different positions and played well. And then Willock has done well, not as well, but has done well as well to get himself in the team. Then Reece Nelson also, and then you got Maitland-Niles, so you got four really young players itching to get into the team there. And For all the criticism that David Luiz has been getting over the time, it seems as though he's got a really good influence on those young lads. From what I'm hearing coming out of Arsenal, he seems to be a bit of a role model for him, and so it's good to have some older players that are looking after these youngsters on the pitch. But they've done really, really well, the young players.
Yeah, I think when you look at young players, Dave, the profile of them is that they've got energy and they've got pace. So the in-possession strategy, what Arteta wants to kind of use at Arsenal, backs up the out-of-possession strategy as well. And certainly you've seen that in a few clips we maybe show later on. But I suppose when you look at the kind of cup run, like the 5 games they've played so far, they've conceded 3. So it's quite effective. So they scored 8 goals.
And I guess just linking to a question we've got in the chat while there's some numbers on the screen. So Adam asking around how much, with the amount of data that there is available, and there is, hundreds of data points or thousands of data points, should I say, on every single game, how much of it is useful and how much of it becomes a blur to the players. I guess Adam, I'll throw that out in terms of not everything that's collected has to be articulated. I think it's key as coaches that are maybe listening in to have information, whether that's through video or data that helps them inform or challenge their thinking or their decision making. And then it's part of the coaching team to filter that in terms of how much you want to give to your players. So just because it's collected and it's available doesn't mean it has to be articulated and shared widely, but to be really focused as coaching in terms of what information is going to help you in your role and help you have an objective lens on what your teams or players are doing, and then picking and choosing the appropriate times to use that with players as and when the moment fits to help that player at that particular moment in time. Fueling my bias with that question there, so loving that. Just linking in, I guess, to some of the conversations we've just had around personnel, in terms of if we focus now in that Arsenal front 3 and in the games that they've played the 3-4-3 system, you can see there's some strength in depth. And Davio, you've mentioned a number of the young players there in terms of Nikita, Nelson. We've got Saka, who we spoke about in depth last week on a webinar. But I guess the ability for players to play across that front line in different positions. So you've got Pepe, who's played on the right and the left, Saka, who's played on the right and the left, Nikita up top and also played on the right. How important is that, I guess, from a coaching point of view, working with young players and developing young players to hopefully ultimately go and have a professional career in the game?
Yeah, really important, I think, Laura. So, to go and play at the top level like these guys are doing, the adaptability and understanding how to play in different systems, but also in different ways is really important. Now, that just doesn't happen in the first team. It's got to be done further down. So I think the recording from Rich Horner, Lee Carsley, and Ryan Gary from Arsenal the other day around Saka's kind of journey as he's progressed, kind of identified really clearly that he's had lots of experiences and a variety in how he's played throughout his pathway. So I think if I remember rightly, the foundation phase, he played in obviously 7v7, but he played in both defensive positions, central. He played in wide positions, but also played centrally as well. When he played for the youth development phase, he's played in fullback positions and also wide positions, but also in central positions at the top or the bottom of the diamond. So giving these players a richness of experiences at younger age to try and give them all the kind of tools in the toolkit you can try and provide them, will hopefully put them into positions when they make the top grade, if they're able to do so, to be even more kind of valuable for the team.
I guess I know I was listening to a webinar recording that we did on Tuesday night was focusing on create the attack and linking the development to the first team, looking at PDP into first team. And we had a whole section where we spoke about connections and relationships between players. And I guess players being able to play in a variety of position and understand the needs and the requirements within different positions will help build and develop the relationship with other players when they're playing. Is that a correct assumption, or am I talking rubbish?
No, really important. Really important. I think they've got a kind of a good young crop coming through at the same time at the club, so they're obviously doing something really well at the club. Yeah. I think the point I didn't maybe raise on the previous point was, Saka came in as a left back, really, didn't he, when he first came? So how do we prepare our young players to actually maybe debut in a position what might not be the natural one for them. So how we kind of the kind of development as they progress through a pathway to be varied, to try and give them as much opportunity as they can to survive when they go in that kind of environment is key. Now, if we've got players who have played a number of positions and can understand relationships between teammates, then obviously that enhances the chances of succeeding as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Saka one is, I find, quite interesting because I was listening to the same webinar with Shauna and Ryan Gary, and it's really, I really enjoyed it. There's some really good insight into Saka, and there's one bit of it I caught, and I might have to listen to it again because I might have caught it wrong. And Ryan said that Saka actually hadn't played over on the right-hand side at all during his development years. So, and he was asked to play in a right-hand side position as we've got there. He's played over that side twice now, and that was the first time that he ever experienced it. That was what Ryan said. I'm sure that's what he said, but I'd have to, like I say, listen to it again. But I totally agree with you, Stuart. It's about preparing young players to be able to come in and to be able to jump into the first team, and managers asking you to play such and such. But Saka's done fantastically well, hasn't he? I mean, he's played 4 or 5 positions like he's an expert in each one of them. It's quite remarkable, really. I can't remember seeing a player do that for long. I can't remember a player having done that. 4 or 5 positions as if he's played there all his life. Fantastic introduction to his professional career. So yeah, so Saka's done well. Nelson is mainly started on the right hand side. He's still finding his way to get in. We haven't got Willock in there, so I suppose he hasn't really. He's kind of coming from midfield. But yeah, it's there's a front line there that's going to trouble people. Obviously, the first 3, Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Pepe, I would say that's his first choice. So yeah, there's a good, and he's got some backup there to complement that.
And what stands out in terms of, I know their names on the screen at the moment, and we're going to look at them in action in a moment, in terms of the profile of those players potentially linked to how maybe Arsenal are trying to play right now?
Pace, and more pace, I think. So really quick. Any back 4 or 3 would certainly look at them and think, well, maybe we've got to sit a little bit deeper to try and protect the space in behind. So yeah, really, really quick. Yeah,
pace. I think mainly from Aubameyang and Pepe. I think Lacazette, he isn't as quick as the rest, those other 2, so he tends to maybe drop in a little bit while the other 2 will push on. And if you're looking at Saka, reasonably, he's pretty pacey, and Nelson, so it is pace, and I think they have, and we'll see in the clips, particularly in the Man City, well, both clips, I think they use that, and the game strategy is around exploiting the pace of these guys to damage the opponents.
Yeah, I think that links us quite nicely. I think we'll go straight to watching the football. That's what we're really all interested in. So going to look at some clips from the quarterfinal and the semi-final. So starting off with the game at Sheffield United in the quarterfinal. The clips are going to play. We're going to play them in real time just to give you guys a chance to have a look at what's going on, and then we're going to slow them down a little bit. And Stu, in this case, is going to share some of his expert insight into what we're recognising and what implications that might have going into the weekend. So I shall load in the first clip. Here we go. Stu, over to you.
Yeah, so we'll let the first clip go. First of all, just trying to link the kind of DNA, really, English DNA to the clip. So more often than not, Arsenal attack over the 5 lanes. They look to think forwards, play forwards, run forwards. Sometimes they try and play too early forwards, which results in lots of transitions. But with the pace they've got, they try and utilise that to every available moment. But I think linking back to the previous comment around the defensive structure behind the ball to try and win as many of these kind of second balls as they can is really important. So as we go through now, it's just going to go in slow motion. So again, they've given away ball away from the corner. What's really interesting here, the pressure on McGoldrick. So they've got pressure from behind. You'll also get pressure from the front and from the side as well. So 3 versus 1 to try and win the ball back. So the attacking organisation certainly helps the defensive strategy as well. Again, a forced ball into the box, but again, we're in good numbers, we're in good strength. And if you look at the numbers inside the box, we're getting at least minimum of 3. And later on within the clip, you get 5. The interesting bit now here, and we talked around structure behind the ball, this is Kolasinac. So centre half, and he's going to win the ball back 35 yards away from the opponent's goal. So, you know, really being on the front foot, really thinking about trying to win them second balls to try and get the opposition out of balance. But start to think about the players ahead of the ball. So 5 inside the box now. They're showing a bit more control and patience. Tierney now coming into like an inverted kind of double pivot, if you would. So 2 things for this. Structure behind the ball in case transition appears and happens. But also in possession, it allows him to take good positions up to try and retain the ball. But also what you'll see in a second is a left winger being able to get isolated. So by him coming narrow, that narrows off the opposition midfield. Creates 1v1s in wide areas. And then he plays a clever reverse ball into Lacazette. Now, this was a common theme throughout the game around the forward players, wanting to make sure they got in between the ball and the man and actually embrace the contact. So it's something what, through certainly watching quite a few games at different ages and stages over the past couple of seasons, has probably gone out of the game, where the embracing contact and wanting to protect the ball and shield is key. Now, what Lacazette's done there is be really clever and step to the side, and he's just been prepared to take a bit of a hit. So again, watch it in full speed. So pressure from behind, pressure from the front. Looking through superior numbers to try and win the ball back.
I think it's interesting to see here with Kolasinac, not only did he come and win that ball back, as you say, it's his follow-up run and he's now in the box as well.
Yeah.
So they've also then got the support and the structure, as you mentioned, behind the ball. Yeah,
it's a great point. And throughout the game, you know, Sheffield United is so effective at kind of defending deep as they do with the 5. So Arsenal couldn't play in behind them with the pace. They struggled to really get on the outside of them because the 5 covered the space as well. And they really kind of struggled going through the centre of them as well. So lots of transitions appeared, but because they showed good organisation, they actually kind of managed to keep the ball a lot of the time. And, you know, the possession stats, I think it was, you know, in Arsenal's favour, I think it was something like 56% in their favour, which when you think they're playing away from home, you know, is quite favourable. So the next clip.
If we link that to I guess what we watched last night with, you know, we discussed the back 3, back 4 scenario of Chelsea. I will put my neck on the line. I think we'll see a matchup at the weekend with the 3-4-3 against each other. Do you think Arsenal might come up against similar problems if they manage to push the wing backs of Chelsea back, or do you think Chelsea will be, I guess, more attacking minded in the positions of those wing backs that might allow Arsenal the space down the sides or in behind?
That'd be really interesting because I think both teams can, well, certainly Chelsea can really adapt, and they'll be quite adaptive to whatever the opposition maybe gives. So I think it depends on any given moment. I think with the pace they've got, I think it'd be very tricky for Chelsea not to maybe track runners and maybe go back into a 5 at times. But I think they'll be wanting to try and maybe play a bit of cat and mouse to try and see who's the braver, to try and stretch the opposition the other way. So it'd be a really interesting game if both teams kind of match up, albeit they might look a little bit different in the centre of the park. So, yeah, be a fascinating game. Hopefully it's a really good game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, so this next clip, I'll play it through again clean. But again, you know, principles of trying to play in 5 lanes, but trying to play forward a little bit too early. So, yes, they've got pace, but sometimes they might want to be patient and buy a pass or 2 to try and progress up the pitch a little bit more in a controlled way. But then just have a little look at the forward run by Saka now as he takes the second centre half away to open up the passing line for Pepe. And we'll slow it down on the next one. It's a fantastic bit of bravery in the centre of the park and great touch to try and turn his opponent under pressure. But we're forward-thinking, forward pass of Sacco, plus followed by his forward run and his appreciation of how it might affect the opposition defender to try and open up space for his teammate. Absolutely fantastic. So again, a forced pass. What I'm thinking here, because Arsenal have got pace in the front three, because Sheffield United won the ball back now, that actually invites them now up the pitch. So on the regain, if they are fortunate to win it back, which we do know they do, that hopefully leaves loads of space in that half of the pitch, which unfortunately we can't see. Sacco having the insight now and the technical ability to try and receive the ball under what does turn to be extreme pressure, but works off his left foot and right foot onto his right hand side. It's fantastic. The front two, so I think it's Nikita and Pepe, how they start to move and split to try and affect the two centre halves. So they're out of balance now anyway, Sheffield United. And the context is that it's the last 3 minutes, it's the last 90th minute, I think, of the game. 3 minutes before Sheffield United just equalised and the game's got a little bit stretched. So the two centre forwards now are really stretching the opponent's centre halves, which creating a massive space in the centre. Sacco's run there, which is full of pace and really positive, really affects that second centre half. You can just see Pepe then with his right hand up, indicating that he wants to pass. And as Pepe goes through now, obviously a left-footed player, possibly maybe wants to favour it more on his left side, but it's a supporting one for Ceballos behind him with a great disguise of first touch, and that second touch just to entice Henderson out was fantastic. When you look at this kind of replay view in a second, it shows how Ceballos kind of supports from outside the box to provide structure behind the ball, but then decides to step into the box. And as they cross over the two defenders, it just creates a space. And Ceballos scanning to see what options he's got available to him and recognise he's got to go alone. And that second touch now just invites Henderson out enough and actually squeeze the ball past Henderson and his near post. So, really clinical, really calm finish.
Dave, anything to add from your observations on those two clips?
No, it's just to add that they did show the pace that they have, particularly in the goals that they score there, and that's kind of coming on to the game that I looked at, but which was the semi-final. Essentially, I think Arsenal recognised that they weren't going to have so much of the ball as most teams don't against Man City, and they accepted that. And I think they kind of played a sort of mid-line, low-line block. And the two clips that we're going to sort of study in a minute is there's plenty of clips that you could have taken from this particular game where Arsenal, from a sort of mid or low block, actually broke and caused Man City lots of problems, and two of the goals came from that, which I'll show you in a minute. So the team lined up, as you can see there, was probably the strongest forward line: Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Pepe. And as you can see, the team following from behind that. I would say that Maitland-Niles and Bellerin would support them, and the rest would be sort of just keeping the game solid. So if we can show you the clips, the first clip is actually the first goal. So I just want you to just look and see what you think, what they're doing, how they're creating situations. So just watch this one through first of all without me saying anything.
Again, we're going to go full speed, and then we'll slow it down for David to add a great amount of detail and then have another relook at it.
Okay, so if I can take this over. So we showed you first clip. Is there anything that you can see that they've done in terms of their forwards. So some of the stuff, the subtle stuff that they're doing. So we can see in this picture here, the free forward, Pepe, Lacazette, and Aubameyang out there on the right, on the left. We've highlighted him there. So that situation there, he could actually get it in behind. He's put himself in a position where he's causing Walker, the right back of Man City, to really think about his situation here. If we take the play on, here we see Lacazette hasn't got as much pace, so he's not probably thinking about trying to get in behind. He's probably thinking about getting into feet. And I'm sure this is something that they've worked on. It isn't something that just happens. They're recognising players' strengths and weaknesses and playing towards that.
I think it's interesting, Dave, isn't it? So the pace what the front three do have certainly affects the mindset of the back four from Man City. So Lacazette getting that much space to try and maybe get on the half turn is really important, because if you look at Aubameyang there, he's off, isn't he? His shoulders dipped, his weight's transferred, and it looks like he's going to try and exploit the space in behind Walker. So certainly in the mindset of the opposition, they'd be thinking about the pace of the front three, and they might give spaces maybe in front of that unit rather than maybe in behind.
Absolutely that. Yeah, absolutely that. So as we take it on, just highlighting Pepe here. So we're looking at what he's trying to do to the back line now. So Aubameyang's done it on the other side. Let's recognise what Pepe's trying to do. Not a fantastic ball out from Lacazette, to be honest. It's bouncing around, so that's not perfect, but it's got out there. It's in the air. It's taken a while. So we're looking at Pepe now. He turns and he gets himself in a position where he's causing Mendes, the Man City left back, some problems, because he's got Bellerin running at him now, and he's got Pepe almost on his shoulder, and he's in a bit of problem at the moment. Is Mendes. So as you can see there, he's looking. He doesn't know when that ball's going to go. He's recognising that he's got space. I'm talking about Mendes now. Mendes worried because he knows there's space in behind him. And he knows he's got Pepe, who's one of the quickest players there. And that if Arsenal get the timing right, if he's not defending right, they can get in. Doesn't quite happen. So it's a one-on-one situation. So Pepe can actually take him on if he feels comfortable enough. But he's wanting to get on his left-hand side. And he's highlighted over towards the left-hand side now. We highlighted as that. And eventually the goal scorer, Aubameyang. Because again, although the ball's on this side, they're taking up fantastic positions to cause problems for the opposition. So where Lacazette is right now, he's causing problems with Garcia, I believe, but he's also in the eye line. Can you see my marker? Can that be seen, Laura? My marker?
No, we can't see that, David.
My marker. No, I can't. Okay, but also he's in the line of Walker as well. So Walker, he's got a way about that run from Lacazette as well as having Aubameyang on the outside. So all these little things are happening for defenders all the time, because the Arsenal players are asking these questions. But there's little sublime little things that can be missed if you're not really studying the game or watching the game. So as we get Pepe coming in on his left foot now. Fantastic run by Lacazette, takes Garcia away. Walker loses concentration because of that, perhaps. Good ball in. Fantastic finish. So we'll see it from a different angle here, but what we're trying to get across here is all these subtle movements that top players make that make a difference in the end.
I think it's really interesting, from a different angle, isn't it? So Bellerin,
same pitch, but a different angle.
I think Bellerin there is absolutely key to it. So as he takes his touch inside the pitch, it doesn't free Pepe up 1v1 versus Mendy. If he'd have received the ball and gone out wide, it'd have took all his space up. Because he's gone inside the pitch, it's forced Mendy to make a decision around, do I stay connecting with centre half or do I go tight towards Pepe, even though I'm thinking that Pepe's got lots of pace, but I don't want to exploit that ball in behind my back shoulder. So he stayed connected and it frees up the wide player, as we've seen in the previous clip, when Tierney got it inside the pitch. And you'd be thinking about Man City now, you'd be disappointed what you'd be defending there. Pepe's all left foot, but Mendy's 4 or 5 yards off, allowing him to come back onto his left foot to put a ball in the box. But I think it comes through Bellerin's tackle insight to actually take the ball inside to actually exploit the wide area. But if we're going to exploit the wide area, then we need to take the ball inside. So yeah, it's a great touch.
So he brings it back on his left. Great ball in, great run, like I said, and a really good finish.
David, just linking to the chat there, and before we throw the next clip up, you've spoken about the real subtleties in the detail. What are the messages for the coaches watching in terms of, I don't know, maybe the conversations they're having with players today in terms of how much football they might be watching or the level of detail we might be studying players in to recognise some of these subtleties that then we can help that development process with players?
I suppose I missed a part of your question, but I think for me it's this level of detail. This is the top end of the game, and I think I personally wouldn't expect this kind of detail to be taught necessarily at the real young age groups. So, because these are real refinements, of the game, and to expect younger kids to be able to take this all on and actually enjoy the game. So you have to be careful with your coaching and what you're expecting from your players, I feel.
Yeah, I suppose you can take the principles, can't you? So, we talk around certainly the England teams utilising the 5 lanes in possession. So try to occupy 5 lanes winning possession of the ball. That's what Arsenal are doing. There's no reason why you can't use them kind of team principles with younger players to try and give them an appreciation of space. And I think some of the questions coming through around, overlaps, no overlaps, all comes down to personal preference, way of playing. It might be that you've got, your fullback's probably the high demand physically to try and keep making overlapping runs when they're playing the full length of the pitch. Might not be something what they want because they might be fatigued in the defensive phase. So you might start to occupy a different space with different personnel. So you see the Man City players, they'll get, your Fodens and De Bruyne's making them kind of runs in advance of the wide players to try and get the ball in them kind of assist zones. So there's all different ways we can try and create and utilise spaces on the football pitch to try and exploit the opposition. So it's recognising what players you have available in your team, what age and stage are them players, and then thinking about, are they able to do what you want them to do? So, are they technically able to do some of these tactical things we're asking of them? If they're not, then we might have to strip it down a few layers to maybe get the technical excellence before we start going tactically heavy with them. But again, that would depend what age they are.
Right. So let's load in our final clip.
Okay, so again, we'll let you watch it without any kind of commentary for us, and then I'll come in with some bits. So just have a watch and see what you feel is happening here, who's doing what, when, and how. This is the second goal from Arsenal. This is late on in the game. See Man City chasing the game. So what have you seen? What are the key bits? So these are some of the bits that we've picked out in terms of what players are doing. As I said, this came late in the game, so later on in the game. So Man City are chasing it a bit. So the context is that's the context of it. So as the ball comes in from a Man City corner, it's punched out.
all the 11 players defending there, aren't they, for Arsenal?
This is the counter-attacking situation. So the first thing is where's the spaces in behind? Not standing still. Aubameyang looking to see where he can go in behind the Man City defence. Even though it's a high line, it's still trying to get in behind. So he sees that Pepe is going into that same space, and then he decides that he's not going to go there as well. So a little subtle decision making at that point. Checking where he is. We just wanted to highlight Lacazette here because he's keeping out of the way. He's not chasing the ball. He's not coming over to this side of the pitch. He's purposely trying to stretch and pull the Man City defence even further. So he's keeping Mendes. We used to call it honest there. Mendes is having to watch Lacazette now. He's not been able to come across and give more cover. So Pepe makes a run in behind. He gets tracked. He can't go anywhere because they've got back in. Keeps hold of the ball. And as it goes back, Arsenal, as they've been trained and as they've been game plan, can we get in behind? So we got Aubameyang looking for that, and a lovely ball from timing's right. He's almost looking like he isn't going to go. And then there's a lovely ball by Tierney. He's onside.
Yeah, I think it's great, isn't it, Dave? So there's no pressure on the ball. So he's got his shoulders facing forward.
Yeah, spacing behind, and he's away. We just wanted to highlight Lacazette again here because it's quite easy if you're inexperienced or you just want to get in and score your goal because you sort of think that I can get in and score here. His movement to keep Mendes away from getting across to Aubameyang is again something that is, that's football intelligence. It's something that he would have learned. So he's keeping Mendes away. We wanted to highlight that as Aubameyang bears down on goal. And this is the type of situations that Arsenal wanted to get in all the game and finishes comfortably, winning the game 2-0. This is from another angle. You'll see it. Just let it run. Timing of the run, quality of the ball. Watching Lacazette keeping Mendes having to keep an eye on Lacazette. 2-0. So again, we just wanted to highlight some of those subtleties that Arsenal brought into their game against Manchester City. A tough game for them because obviously Manchester City had a lot of the ball, but the game plan, our perception of the game plan was that Arsenal wanted to hit those spaces in behind the Man City defence and did it a few times in the game. These are the 2 times that they scored, but there was a few other occasions where they did it but didn't quite score. So it's a good all-round team performance, and I think the manager Arteta was really delighted afterwards.
I guess that just brings us to our final slide. Then we've had a great insight from both of you in terms of the level of depth and detail within the clips we've watched. And I'm sure I know I've taken loads away from listening to that, and I'm sure everyone joining in has. We look at you mentioned before the profile of the front three. Stu, you very much were like pace, pace, and pace. I guess linking to that, the questions on the screen, I can read it out to you if you want. How to develop practice around sort of those individual player profiles to help those players either, I guess, develop their super strengths or maybe challenge them in a slightly different way.
Yeah, so I think the question came through early off the coaches watching about at what age as a coach you start to introduce these technical details. So I'm assuming by the question it's technical details. So if it's 1v1 excellence straight away. So the quick players, but they're unbelievable off both feet. So the receiving skills, the 1v1 kind of preparing your spaces. Paul McGuinness kind of rightly says it, prepare the space, and then the kind of 1v1 excellence with the ability to receive in tight areas, off both feet, both directions, dribbling to try and beat your opponent. Certainly start as young as you can. Once you've got these kind of really kind of reinforced and embedded, then you can start to think about some tactical elements. But I won't go too tactical too early. I'll be certainly thinking, depending where you're working, around 14. Don't rush to try and get them towards the big game because we really need to get the strong foundations at an early age. I think if we look at the question, what you posed us there, Laura, maybe not around Arsenal as such, because who am I to try and tell Arteta what he should be doing with his training programme? But I think when you've got, if you've got front players who are quick, then you certainly need to start considering in your practices around affording them spaces to try and utilise the super strength. So I know sometimes the problem, certainly in some of the academies I go into, space is at a premium. So you've got to be really clever around how you manipulate the space and try and give different players space to go and really thrive. So you might shift the halfway line, so you don't have a halfway line at halfway point. It might be moved slightly, so it gives them more space to go and run and play off people's shoulders. But likewise, if we're only doing that, then they'll only get good at doing that. So we need to give them a variety of things where they can start thinking about dealing with the ball in small, tight areas as well, so they can get used to combining in small areas, which when you think about the Sheffield United clip, when you've got a team maybe defending deep, reducing space, there wasn't many opportunities in that game where you could see lots of good combination play. So start to just think and consider all these different variables, what you want your players to experience, to try and give them as many kind of tools in that kind of toolbox you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's giving your players the opportunity, as Stuart said, to not just play in the tight areas, but also when you can, opening the area size up and allowing them to have that opportunity to run in behind defenders and being able to have that option. And as Stuart said, it's not always easy. We understand that space is at a premium, and you're probably just training on half a pitch, or not even that, probably quarter of a pitch. It's difficult to get those spaces for your players, but whenever you can, and whenever you do get those spaces, please do take advantage of the space and give your players the opportunity to design practice, to give your players the opportunity to run into space as well, so that when they come to a game on a Sunday or wherever Saturday to play, when there is that space in behind, they've at least done it a few times with you and they know it's possible to do. So yeah, crucial for your players to have the ability to do both, as Stu said, tight areas and also big spaces.
Yeah, and I think just going one last point, if I can, the picture explains it all. So you've just scored a goal, so make sure you practice you've got goals in, because players like finishing, and sometimes it's probably the least practiced part of the game. So if you can make it game-like, can put goals in, because players like to score goals and have shots. So just keep it nice and simple and game-like.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stu. Thank you, Davo, for your absolutely fascinating insight tonight. Thank you for everyone that's interacted with us and joined in the chat. Just a reminder that we will be having our final webinar in our FA Cup series on Tuesday evening at 7:30. Registration links within the chat, and if you follow FA Learning on Twitter, they'll be publicised over the next few days. Hopefully we'll see some of the insight discussions we've shared tonight and last night on Chelsea become apparent on Sunday. I can't leave it, Davo, without you asking you both what your score predictions are for Saturday. So you're going to put your neck on the line for us?
Oh wow, what a question! Well, it's going to be Arsenal, isn't it? I think everyone's going to agree with that, even you guys. But no, Arsenal to win, simply because I think Arteta's really, he's got them understanding their roles and the responsibility of each player, and I think, I think we'll do it on the day. Scoreline. It could be. I'm going to go. Let's say 3-1. 3-1.
Oh, very confident, Stu.
Well, you've got to go. I know we're going to win, but
for the sake of balance, I knew Dave will go for Arsenal, so I'll go Chelsea. I'll go Chelsea 2-1.
Brilliant.
Sorry,
Thank
Dave.
you very much, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thanks,
We'll
everyone.
see you all on Tuesday night to unpick it a little bit more. Thank you.